O sea, tenían que contratar a una persona que esté acá, tipo, manejando aforo, y tenían que venir al sanitario, o sea, a requerir eso todos los días.
Tener esa persona que dé chiquitito tu sanitizer
y teníamos que limpiar esto.
Pero si acá no hay nadie.
No, sí, hay personas que están dando vueltas que tapan y no está pagando.
No, viene ayudado de vez en cuando.
¿cómo?
Solo por eso, ¿no?
Hubo una época que...
16.000 euros era más de lo que
Is this from Peru?
Sí.
The sport? Did you guys make this?
Felipe did it.
Really?
Yes.
I really like it. It's
bueno, ok.
Church of this, created, and...
Yeah.
Sí, páginas de novelas está acá solo que un poco más dinámico, un poco
Of course. A marker. That will be fine.
Yeah. Very nice.
En mayo era venderita en otros países fue esto que hasta cierto que puede cambiar de consultadora. Ya, exactamente. Entonces, bueno, esto de acá era...
Chévere, desde los pocos tenías que dejar ver cómo era el chico de afuera.
Adesso non sono tanti imbracciati. Nella mia epoca quando sono andata
Ma adesso ci sono state un po'. Ci sono state un po' di sommosse, però. No. No, per me non. Beh, io sono dei 7 anni, quindi ovviamente a Lima quando dico ho vissuto lì, vivo lì, che lì c'è la mia casa, il mio ufficio, tutti mi dicono però io sinceramente non ho mai trovato problemi. Sinceramente non lo so. La mia organizzazione sì, come io come persona no, cioè le mie idee ovviamente, ora con il tema lavorativo assolutamente cerchiamo di rimanere in colore, però io come individuo assolutamente in ogni caso credo che quello che abbiamo ora è la migliore opzione, cioè insomma l'altra opzione no. Dico, tornare al fujimorismo non mi sembrava assolutamente il cammino. È assurdo andare a pensare.
Pedro, Ana María Enrique. Ciao.
Ma non lo vanno a aprire la reja, no?
No, tiene anche por COVID tiene que tener una persona ahí dando alcohol.
La reja de ahí, la reja.
Si no tienes una persona, no te dejan abrir.
We're smiling, but
There's two people watching, so you know.
oh, okay. Is it like 2 seats apart?
No, it's restricted, I think, no?
You want to come here? Come on this way.
Head over.
Because you know we haven't already spent all our time together.
Por 5 meses, por toda la duración de los 6 meses.
Of course there is not. Still haven't told.
No había tenido padre que matar, porque tuvimos que era un maestro, un profesor que está en Argentina o parado en México, que si ya ni se había ido, pues un maestro en Francia, así que pero justamente dicho, Baraco es como un mentor de proyectos, no de tanto de ejecución o de ser un gran maestro. Además es postmoderno.
Gana más que...
Alex was famoso, but I think he'll get lost.
One?
Tal vez podéis estar a la puerta de ese es por streaming que lo va a dar.
Hi everyone. Hi. Thank you all for coming. I'm just gonna make a little introduction. Thank you very much. Thank you everyone so much for coming. This is the 5th time Peru has been present in the Architecture Biennale, 4th time with our own national pavilion. And every year we continue to learn more and become better. Since 2016, the Patronato Cultural del Perú has been responsible for the production of the pavilion, and we are incredibly proud of what we have achieved. Before we begin, I would like to thank our patrons, Fundación Vice and El Comercio, for all their support, and our sponsors, especially the Commission for the Promotion of Peru for Export and Tourism from Peru, the Pontificia Universidad Católica del Perú, Universidad de Lima, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Culture, and the Peruvian Chamber of Construction. Also, the Universidad Privada del Norte, Universidad de Ingeniería, PowerTech, Hunter Douglas, Artco, Iucini, Tribeca, and Deco Center. I would also like to say a big thank you to Mateo and Claudia. I'm very sorry they couldn't make it, but without them we wouldn't be here. And finally, thank you to Felipe, our curator. I know the road was very hard, but working with you made it very easy. It's been almost 2 years since he was chosen to represent Peru in this pavilion. And after all the hard work, we can finally say that we have made it. So without further ado, I leave the floor to Felipe, our curator. Thank you.
So, well, good afternoon to all. Thanks for coming. I'll be presenting Playground, Artifacts for Interaction. So we responded to the prompt, how will we live together, with an action reflection by using a local problem to take on a global challenge. The project aimed to remove gates and fences from public spaces in various districts of the capital and of Peru, and transform them into artifacts inviting people to interact. Peru is still recovering from the scars of an internal conflict, terrorism that raged from 1980 to 2000. The people of Lima started gating their streets as a defense mechanism. More than 20 years later, we have not stopped gating ourselves. Like the rest of the world, faced with the persistence of the media, the precariousness of global politics, and the new order that is taking shape through the pandemic, we are becoming wary of each other once again. This situation could further exacerbate the fear of the other and increase atomization. Gates reify our fears, and we need to work on ways to transform those fears into opportunities. The normalization of the use of gates is becoming part of the urban landscape and the collective unconscious. This is reflected nationally as well as internationally, especially in recent times where more gates have been installed, but we notice them less. Because of this, we need more places for integration and less exclusionary devices. It is necessary to stop and reflect on what the cost of this phenomenon is to the city and its dwellers. Public space is meant to be experienced by all citizens on equal footing. In Lima, from the most exclusive areas to the poorest of the cities, these situations have become invisible. Maybe it has to do with our education. Here you can see the top high schools in Lima and their facade walls. The more exclusive the school, the taller and uglier the walls. So these security elements come segregation devices. We're turning to benches, playground games, soccer goals, and so forth, in an effort to rechannel all of the time, energy, and money expended into building barriers. By breathing new meaning and life into their rough materials, like this ladder and Carola, a seesaw artifact. We really like the seesaws. It made us reflect that this game teaches us how can we relate and interact with others. So the game requires two parties in order to start, and they both need to be leveled. Once both are in equilibrium, one will ascend or descend depending on the contract with the other. And then they'll take turns. They will always depend on each other. Through balance and play, trust emerges. Trust becomes paramount in order to create harmony and a fluid interaction during the play. The game starts and finishes with both parties being leveled in order for there to be success. It is about subtle communications played out in physical form and intuition. It's a game that teaches us that we are all mirrors of one another. This ladder was part of the entry gate. The operation was only turning it 90 degrees. This artifact helped us reflecting that once you are on the top of the stairs, it's always better to have someone helping to hold the stairs so it doesn't fall. So here we have the mock-up of the love seat artifact that we have in the entry. A pool, these corner benches, or a soccer goal. You can see the operations that didn't really happen like that, but you get the sense of how easy it is to turn things. For the Pyrrhus Biennale, a competition with the theme Free Space, we proposed to transform gates into urban furniture. And for this Biennale, we focused on artifacts for interaction. Not all of them made the cut, like this one that we call Sea Level. It had a bubble in the center of gravity, and the idea was to try to balance everybody so the bubble would stay leveled. And here are 3 cartoons from Carlin that show the ridiculous situation of what our city have become. Republic Space, hashtag. We also had an open call for people to send us photographs of the gates from the neighborhoods. We posted them in Instagram under the hashtag #RipPublicSpaces. And the response was tremendous. We got photographs not only from cities all over Peru, but also from places we weren't expecting, like countries like Canada. We got photographs like this one by Carlos Calderón, or videos like this one by Lucia Valentina Hernández. The amount of gates were shocking. In this mosaic we again find some photos of the gates of just one district of Lima. They were taken by Elena Taliano, an Italian student interchange. Also, there are lenticular panels attached to the entry gate, where two versions of the same photograph, with and without gates, coexist. Very quantic in that sense. Through the film, the gated photographs disappear into emblematic spaces clear of them. From local physical gates, we then move on to discussing less apparent global ones. Here is the University Park in Lima. The Peruvian Congress Plaza. The cathedral in the main plaza in Arequipa, our second largest city. And here's the Palacio Real in Madrid. And here we can appreciate how the dynamics of the streets completely changes. The White House in the US. And then we move into the less obvious ones like Brexit, for example. Or in this case, the chasing of the Sea-Watch boat that rescued drowned people and was prohibited to enter the Lampedusa port in Italy, and then with Carola Roccette, the captain being arrested. We named our CISO boat bench after her. Or our actual ubiquitous surveillance systems that are in a different way the new form of gates. And in that line, we end up with our cell phones as our ultimate gates. The author of the catalog of the pavilion is Monica Belevan, a brilliant philosopher that helped us with the project. In her own words, as you can read in the introduction of the catalog, the purpose of this work is to complement and complicate the hypothesis set forth by the Peruvian exhibition at the 17th Venice Architecture Biennale. To do so, it will explore and explode the purpose and meaning of gates, walls, deep fences, and thresholds, doorways, boxes, enclosures, and cages, and of other, if no less defining experiences, like limit situations, liminal spaces, and phenomenological horizons. The graphic design was done by super talented Michael Prado and his team from Formato Público. I recommend all to take a look at the catalog. You can find it online on the webpage of the pavilion on the right tab. The web program was done by Fabrizio Piazze from Hado. I would like to thank our design team that along the last 5 years, they have helped evolve this project. Javier Vázquez, our project architect, Alejandro Alarcón, Luis Arevalo, Kevin Abanto, Eric Maldonado, Francisco Obregón, Antonella Pakusic, Daniela Díaz Tenorio, Marina Gubins, and Fiorella Gillen. And also thanks to all the people that helped us by sending their photos and videos of their local gates. The Universidad Católica de Perú for helping us with our catalog, and our commissioners Pedro Rego and the Patronato Cultural del Perú, Marco Endaño, Lida Garcia, and Fabiana Maggi, for helping us from the competition to the realization of the project. Also, our local architects Claudio Ortigas and Mateo Eldritz. And a special thanks for Servimetales, Jose and family Salas, and Maximo Nostroza, that they were voluntarily donated their work to make the transformation of the gates into the artifacts. And Winston Churchill, in October of 1943, while debating the shape on how to rebuild the chamber that was destroyed during the Blitz, said, "We shape our buildings, and afterwards our buildings shape us." In this case, is how we shape our cities. Afterwards, our cities shapes us. Gates are the materializations of our fears, precisely our fears of the other. So our contributing question for the Creator Collective is, how can we fear less? How can we transform those fears into opportunities? In these new times of COVID, the lessons we learned is that if we want to truly be sustainable, we need to really think of the other. If the other is not okay, no one will be okay. we need to think of us as one, as a synecdoche. So to wrap up, the pavilion invites us to reflect on what is left inside and what is left outside when there are gates in between. After the exhibition, the playground artifacts will be returned to the places of origin, modified and ready to continue transforming us. I would like to finish the presentation with a movie that was done by the group CREA from the University of Lima that showed the process of the project. Thank you. So unfortunately we cannot enter formally, officially to the pavilion, but maybe you can see it from this year and also start to, one by one maybe, try to entry. Yes, I was forgetting. If anybody have any question, Rolf, yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi. I would like to know if this project is going to continue. Are you going to keep on with making more artifacts or something like that in Peru?
Ideally, the hardest part always is to get the material, to take the gates out. That's been quite the struggle in this project. In the whole journey of transforming the gates, the politics were the most challenging thing to work around. At the beginning we had all the politicians in our side, but when it was an action time to actually take the gates out, it never happened. And when it did, then the media came after the politicians. The whole thing, it unravels how the relations work in our city. I mean, of course, there's some people that wants the gates out, especially the ones that are on the other side. But some other people also wants to have the gates. And that confrontation is usually won by the ones that have the gates, that are inside of the gates, because usually those are the ones that have the power to do so. But the idea will be to actually keep on doing this and engage with the more political powers.
Maybe it's a long way. I mean, you need time for doing this, but eventually maybe it could work.
Yeah, I mean, from our experience was you can do this, either way. You can go bottom up and organize the community, convince them, do a hard work, and we failed with that. And then you can go top bottom, which is having politicians actually take the tough decisions and fight for them. Like in Bogota, for example, the mayor said, no more gates in the streets, and of course he almost got vacated, but it was done. In Peru and Lima, they don't want to get, within that fight. Although, for example, for this project, 2 or 3 mayors, they were running for mayors, and that was their campaign, because it's very, very popular, to take the gates out, because it's the majority that lives outside of the gates. But once he was in, they were mayors, they didn't want to do it. I mean, it's very political.
It's complicated, but
yeah.
It's a very nice project, and I hope it continues.
Thank you.
I think you're making a good point when you're saying that most of the people are actually voluntary prisoners, such as Koolhaas would diagnose. And I think we're still in it, actually, and we're not leaving it. And the fact that your own pavilion would be closed is really like an ironic fact. And just for the fact of the virus, that we have to clean ourselves to enter a pavilion means that it doesn't work as a public space. I mean, the Biennale works as a closed space, and we are voluntary prisoners of the Biennale too here. So I think it works very well, but you should have probably explained that made a point of it in the text, I think, because I think you have much more to offer. I mean, what you're saying now is much more explicative, I think, than the text in the entrance, which is the original idea, but it would stay completely changed after the COVID would provide us from the entrance.
I just read the text that is on the wall.
No, I know, but you were explaining in the questions, you were explaining how it worked, why we can't enter, and how we should be entering your pavilion. And the COVID just prohibited it.
Yes, I mean, we were talking about this. This happened not only to our pavilion, to most of the pavilions. The projects were done March, the pandemic hit, and May was the opening, and everybody was without already spent the budgets, and so I think the whole Biennale was thought, it's a pre-pandemic Biennale. Some, very few, were able to actually reorient on the discourse, but I think that almost all the exhibition is pre-COVID.
I had another question about, you showed in the video that there were kids playing with your structures. Where was that?
It was very close to the taller in Pachacamac, to the Cerro Metales.
And is it going to stay there afterwards, after the Biennale?
Well, the idea is that all the artifacts will go back to their original place. So wherever we got the gates from, that's where they're supposed to go back.
Okay. Well, good luck. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Hi, it was a really nice work, and I would just like to ask, when you talk about, because you pick the gate or the border as your, to translate, and also the theme of fear. And I was wondering, because when you see a gate or a border, it's not just fear that you actually associate or you feel or one person feel. I was wondering if you also look into other thoughts like the excitement or security, for example. Did you also look into translating this into while making the pavilion or curating it? Because there's also different levels or different feelings when you see a gate into a public space.
I mean, of course, there are security gates that they need to be, you know, like the government, the house, and you know, it's military reasons as well, and you know. But what we were aiming to tackle is of this process of privatization of the public space, and this is a very act of actually, you know, claiming the street that somebody owns the street, the public space. It's a very violent act in itself. So that we were focusing on that that kind of gate. During the research, of course, there's a different type of gates, security gates. But the ones that people place on the streets is mostly because they fear of the other. They don't want the other to actually, you know, enter through their space, and that becomes a problem for the other.
Okay, yeah, I understand. I was just like looking at if it's only fear, or did you also look at, for example, some people might get excited or feel secured, but maybe that's another layer.
Well, it's yeah, we did see that false security, you know, because you really think about it, when somebody gates even their house, which everybody says, you know, it's fair enough to protect yourself in your house. It's your intimate space, you know, your private space. But once you do that, what you're really doing is actually calling more the attention of somebody that wants to break in, you know. Well, why would that person, you know, gate themselves? So, in that action, you're also actually, you know, revealing not only your fears, but, you know, expressing them.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.